Polish winged hussars came to came into existence in the 16th century when groups of Balkan warriors came together to form a mercenary unit from the Serbian Hussars in Poland. Following the success of these mercenary units, the Polish Parliament authorised the first Hussars units to be created and were to be organised into three banners. With this change to formal units of the Polish army, they have now changed from light cavalry, formed by mercenaries, into heavy shock cavalry/lancers. The elite of the Polish nobility joined this unit because the Hussars units were the most prestigious units in the Polish army. In 1576, the Polish Hussars have reformed their armour and weapons and equipment. This standardisation was intended to align the unit with the Polish King Stephen's Royal Guard of Hussars. Their reforms/standardisation include the addition of breastplate armour and longer lances. Therefore, with this adjustment equipment, the cavalrymen/Hussars were heavy shock lancers. So at the end of these reforms, these Hussars units became famed Polish winged Hussars. They were able to fight both cavalry and infantry units as well. The winged Hussars would take part and win 16 major battles between 1577 to 1683. Some of these battles included the Siege of Vienna, where they led the largest cavalry charge in history against the Ottoman Empire, as well as the Battle of Kulishno, I am very sorry I cannot pronounce this, where the Russian forces outnumbered Polish forces by some 28,000 men, succeeding the supremacy of the winged Hussars and the Polish-Lithuanian military commonwealth. The weapons of the winged Hussars were broad and varied. The one weapon the most associated with the unit is the Copier lance, which was made of cheap pine or fir wood. They were designed to be used only once. Only designed to be used once, they were made with hollowed shaft, which made them exceptionally light to carry. The Copier lances were 13 to 19 feet. The sizes varied depending on the rider and how tall, large they were. For their secondary weapons, they carried a sabre, which was a conic-style sword that was designed to be a remarkably effective stabbing weapon and piercing armour, but wasn't effective at slashing attacks. The winged Hussars were known to carry weapons in different swords, including one of these swords, which was called a palesh, which is a type of broadsword. At the end of the 16th century, many Polish winged Hussars units had adopted a firearm to keep pace with technology advancing. By 1576, most winged Hussars were carrying wheel-lock pistols. The use of pistols were expanded into the 17th century, with some of the Hussars carrying two French flint-lock pistols. The reason that the winged Hussars became known as the winged Hussars because they carried on their backs or attached feather wings to their saddles. Accounts differ. These winged Hussars were wooden frames with feathers attached to them. Most historians believe they were hired officers of the Hussars to make them look grander. They were used in battle to look at intimidating, used to make shrill sounds to scare their enemy soldiers/cavalry. In my opinion, what is shit, I'm not so qualified historian at all, I'm just an amateur. These were used to scare horses completely and scare the enemy units to break. But what was also interesting is Hussars' armour. It was made of very lightweight steel. It was very protective as well. The lightness was due to they wanted to make sure nothing was weighing down horses too much so they could charge faster into battle. The armour was plated as well, and the helmet was as well. What's also interesting, we'll get to now, is the tactics the winged Hussars used. The tactics of the winged Hussars were different from medieval European knights, who would be in tightly packed formations when charging. Contrast to this, the winged Hussars, who would fight in loose formations, allowed them to make more reactive and mobile when attacking enemy forces. The other tactic they would do was a headlong charge at enemy units, what would seem a bit mad when facing units with guns, but it works nevertheless, on breaking enemy infantry units. While the sheer force of the charging units, the winged Hussars, would do a hell of a lot of damage to these enemy units, it was more of a psychological element of the attack that would break the enemy lines. Now, other units rely such as cavalry and infantry to do more damage. While the winged Hussars won many battles by 1700, they were losing effectiveness, especially when the enemy units were equipping themselves with guns, and the Hussars only had lances, swords, and axes, and pistols. To prove the non-effective of the units in 1702 in the Battle of Kulishno, I cannot pronounce Swedish, I'm very sorry, The Swedish Empire decimated the Winged Hussars and the Polish, Lithuanian Commonwealth and Saxony armies with the use of superior tactics and firearms. By 1776, the Polish Winged Hussars' supremacy had completely gone. They had been demoted to a ceremonial role in Poland. In conclusion, the Polish Winged Hussars were one of the best cavalry/hussars units in Europe for their time. They rightfully earned their name as the Angels of Death. However, with the movement of time and development of firearms, they became non-effective. In their prime, they were the most feared cavalry units in Europe, but with time they were taken by the pace of technology.